What's going on, everybody? Jumping on here to recap Steelers 24-19 loss to the Browns. Frustrating one for sure in prime time. Wild game in the snow. A lot of unpredictability with this one on a short week, Thursday Night Football. But I know it was a late night, early morning for me, for most of you guys as well. So, we're going to get through it together. Win, lose, tie. We're going to break this thing down like we normally do, go over, positives, negatives from this one. But just before we get started, please make sure that you like the video, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell. Drop me a comment also on some stuff that you guys are interested in seeing in the film room. We got a little mini bye. Team gets a little chance to kind of regroup. We do as well. So I got time to hopefully crank out a couple videos. So if there's stuff that you are interested in, want to see, let me know for sure. I really appreciate it. Just talk about this one in general, man. I mean, it was unpredictable in a way because if you would have told me like a couple of these things happened that we talked about in the preview, I would have kind of just assumed that the Steelers were able to pull it out. We talked about just like the turnover battle. That was like a huge reason that they've, had previously lost for the last five, now five of the last six in Cleveland. Just committing too many turnovers, not getting enough of them as well. And like early in the game, the Steelers had the strip sack from Myles Garrett, turn the ball over. But really after that, I mean, they got three straight turnovers. We talked about Jameis was going to give them a couple opportunities. He certainly did. They probably could have had another interception. It felt like in this one as well. But they won the turnover battle 3-1. That's usually a pretty good thing for the Steelers. They also outgained the opponent. There's a lot of weird, wacky stuff that happened in this one. You just look at some of like the random stats, man. But like Cleveland was 1 for 10 on third down, which like you just don't win games like that in the NFL. If you're 1 for 10 on third down, but they were 4 for 4 on fourth down. So a lot of those situations, those kind of do or die moments, like Cleveland was just a little bit better of a team. That's really what it comes down to. I thought that another kind of familiar theme that's really been the case. I don't even say like over the course of the season, because it's really been a case like throughout, I don't know, like the last like 4 or 5 years. It's just the continued slow starts on the opposite side of the ball. I mean, the Steelers had 6 points, like with like 10 minutes to go or something like that when they got the ball first in the fourth quarter. I mean, that's just, you're not going to win games like that in the NFL. I thought they did some really good things offensively in the second half of this game. I thought Russ played really well in the second half, made some big time throws. Speaking of third downs, like some of the stuff that he was doing on third downs is like huge in this one. You just look at like the late passing success rate, like they were over 50%, especially like if you exclude some of the stuff on the final drive and everything. And I thought he made some really big time throws. Throw to Calvin to take the lead was a huge shot. We talked about the Browns. They're mainly man coverage team, but their zone stuff has a lot of NTTs. And to be quite honest with you, we said like they weren't very good at them. Like their zone spacing is not very good. You can catch them. Big plays occur. They busted a couple coverages in this one against the cover two looks, and Russ was able to take advantage. And it was really nice to see that portion of it on that go-ahead touchdown. He takes a shot, delivers a really nice bender to Calvin Austin over the middle of the field. I thought Calvin gave them a really nice spark on the offensive side of the ball on a day where no one else like really like stood out in a huge way other than him, in my opinion. He really got the game started with a 40+ yard reception. Really nice route, by the way, on the safety. On that one, he has to slow up a little bit. Granted, the elements, surely play a part in that, but the Steelers got explosive plays on offense, man. Like even in the first half, like they were moving the ball okay. It was just the negative plays that were kind of setting them back a little bit. Russ is getting sacked a lot, despite he was pressured 13 times in this one. He was sacked 4 times, excuse me. Dan Moore had a really tough time with Myles Garrett. They tried to chip him. I don't think they necessarily executed that plan very well. Some of the chips weren't good enough. And then, he pretty much feasted. And he looked like the best player on the field, like full stop. He was the best player on the field, either side of the ball tonight. You got to tip your cap. We talked about, you just don't need to, you can't let this dude wreck the game. And he wrecked the game. So that's what he gets paid to do. And the Steelers didn't do a good enough job, really neutralizing that. Some of the things I thought, it was nice to see Russ. Some of those sacks in the first half, I think, 5-6 years ago, he was probably able to kind of evade and get out of, make plays out of structure. But I do think he made some plays in the second half that we really haven't seen him make so far through his first couple starts as a Steeler. He had a really nice scramble for 10 yards. He got outside the pocket and found Najee on a little dump down that ended up producing a big play. Converted a out of structure play to the left sideline to Pat Freiermuth on a second reaction play as well. So there were encouraging things from him, especially as it relates to like, just pushing the ball vertically and all that stuff. But largely, I didn't feel like the passing game was the reason really that they lost in this game, aside from a little bit of the slow start and the negative plays in the first half. Um, State can't really be said for the rushing attack though. Really just continue to have, a little bit too much struggles for how they want to play. I mean, they want to be super run heavy, run the ball on first, second down, that stuff. And as predictable as it may, if you're successful in doing it, that's fine. But again, you look at the numbers on this one. I mean, they finished with a 30% rushing success rate. Najee like 50 carries. He had like 16 carries, I think, for 40 yards. I mean, that's not going to be good enough. For sure. It did get a nice spark in that fourth quarter drive. They only had 6 points on the board at that time. They put Justin Fields in, really nice spark, get a 30-yard rush from him. And then also like punch it in immediately after on a little zone replay to Warren. So, I mean, those little tweaks and wrinkles, I think you give the credit for to the coaching staff for that, especially the stuff that they saw on film. It wasn't perfect though. I mean, I think that the first fourth down that they tried to go for, it actually looked like they ran the same exact play that the Saints ran last week that Taysom Hill scored a long touchdown on. I'm not really sure like 100%, but I'm pretty sure that Justin didn't follow his blockers on that play. Like, and we can criticize like the call. I think it's like a little bit of hindsight. Um, analysis in that regard. But I think if Justin follows his blocker, I think he gets the first down and probably a lot more. So I didn't see any post game quotes. Like I was up working last night, so I didn't get the chance to like listen to any pressers. If they already talked about that, y'all know about it. I might try to keep y'all posted in the comments on that one. But that was kind of confusing to me. And then I know a lot of people are talking about like just the decision in general on 3rd and 4 late in the fourth quarter to kind of have him drop back and throw the ball. He threw a fade route to George Pickens. They were up, I think they were up a point at that point, but it was 3rd and 4. I want to say that was a check from Fields at the line of scrimmage, just based on the box count, because the way that they were trying to spread them out, I would imagine that was probably going to be a run. And he checked out of it because it looks like the Browns either were playing single high with a post safety or they didn't have anybody back there. It was just cover zero, and they were just trusted George Pickens to win. Again, like we could talk about the decision, whether that actually needs to be a choice that he can make in that situation, given the fact that, I don't know, it's snowing, there's rain. He has yet to throw the ball, I don't think, all game. It's tough, so there were definitely some play calling stuff with this game that I think is worth mentioning. We talked about like just like sticking with the run, even though it wasn't working. That's definitely an element of it. But really, the red zone execution. I mean, they went 1 for 2 on the day, but they had some drives stall out in Browns territory early in this game. Like I said, they just didn't finish off drives early enough to put up enough points on the board. And then also with that, the 2-point conversion try after they scored in the fourth quarter. We just got to have something better. I mean, we went over it last week in the film room. I did a 30-minute breakdown for like third downs and, red zone stuff last week against the Ravens over their struggles. And play calling was like what I attributed a decent amount of, and play design, I should say, was what I attributed a lot of their struggles to last week. And really the same thing. I mean, you go back and watch the play. You got Cordell Patterson as the backside X receiver. You throw a fade to him. On the other side, they're trying to work a man beater, but they're working like a pick route with Pat Freiermuth trying to set a pick for Darnell Washington. And it's like it's so slow because like Darnell, like he's a build up speed guy. It's never going to be there. Like the Browns cover it up really quickly. Even if Wilson worked that side of the field, like personnel choices there just doesn't make any sense to me. And like just in general, I think like when you get into those tight spots, short yardage, third down, red zone, they were pretty good. I thought Wilson was pretty solid on third down in this one, but you get into those tight spots, man. Like I always think like players over plays. Like you do not throw the ball to your third string backup running back / kick returner in a spot where you absolutely have to convert. It's a 1-point game at that point. You get that, you're up 3. It totally changes the dynamic of how this game plays out. Like you even think about the Steelers, when they were driving late in the fourth quarter, they get the ball back after they pretty much let them score after the Browns take the lead. I mean, if they get that 2-point conversion, it's 24-21. You get a chance to kick a field goal. They had enough time to get field goal range. They probably just didn't have enough time to get all the way to the end zone with the amount of time and the amount of timeouts they had. Speaking of timeouts, Tomlin also like huge blunder before the half. We talked about this, like just some of the decision making, like right before the half and stuff like that. This season hasn't came back to bite them, but it definitely did last night. Not that total reason that they lost, but letting 40 seconds run off the clock right before the half without using the timeout, and then Russ and the offense gets the ball back. They get a first down, I think, and then they have another sack, but they went into the break with a timeout in their pocket. It's just like, it's just not, you're not maximizing your chances. You're not maximizing the amount of opportunities you're getting to put points on the board. And, obviously we could talk a lot about the defense as well, some of their struggles, some of the things that they didn't do well, because there's a lot of it. But at the end of the day, if you scored 19 points in an NFL game in this era, I just don't think you really deserve to win. That's just my opinion. 19 points after you get 3 turnovers, it's just not good enough in my opinion. So, um, that is what it is, and I think that the coaching aspect of it, that element of it, certainly didn't put them in a great position to win in either. As for the defense, wow, I mean, there's a lot to be said about this one. It really felt, this is a game that I'm just like kind of used to seeing them win, I guess. Even the way that things transpired down the stretch, 3 turnovers is good, but you know, I would say Cleveland did move the ball, better than I kind of originally would have anticipated. They had a 50% rushing success rate on the day, 48% passing success rate. Winston definitely made some plays. He avoided some sacks, but I thought largely enough the pass rush didn't do enough to really change the game, especially because like that is the Steelers' strength on defense, and I just didn't think that they had their guys really show up to the level that they needed up to. Look at some of the numbers. T.J. Watt, one pressure on 24 matchups against Jack Conklin on the right side. Sure, they were chipping him, giving him some extra attention, but in a game that Myles Garrett dominates, you need your best player to show up, and he didn't show up last night. And that just is what it is. They neutralized him, and that's part of the game plan and whatever, but it's a huge difference in the game for sure. And even speaking of that, like guys, I think oftentimes like it's hard to win games in the NFL, like when your best players don't play like it. Minka, another guy, like he gave up multiple catches in man coverage, a couple first down conversions in this one. So like that's another thing. Like didn't really make much of an impact in this one. The Browns had some key completions like over the middle of the field as well. So when your best players don't play at their peak, I mean, you're going to find yourself on the losing end of these battles, and that's exactly what happened. Credit to some of the stuff that the Browns did to kind of neutralize those guys. I thought Nick Herbig was a positive, bright spot in this one. Of course, he had the strip sack that kind of gave them a little bit more life in the fourth quarter. It was a huge play. I thought Deshaun Elliott had some nice moments. He knocked the ball out from Cedric Tillman, forced a turnover, but he also had a really nice coverage on a 2-point conversion later in the game as well. So a couple nice plays from him in this one. I thought that those were both like relatively positive spots in the game, but largely they just did do enough down the stretch to come away with this one. I mean, third downs, 1 for 10, but you let them go 4 for 4 on fourth down, man. Like it's just, some of those were killers too. Like the Jameis touchdown run or the 2-point try, whatever, was a killer. Multiple third down conversions. You got Jerry Jeudy making spectacular catches pretty much everywhere. I mean, they were making him look, Joey Porter Jr. was another guy that he didn't seem like he played his best either. He was in the area of a lot of these completions. We'll see what the tape looks like when we run it back. Patrick Queen did some nice things, has some nice plays in this one, which are probably worth talking about, but largely wasn't too impressed with the defensive side of the ball either. And that's really like, it comes down to special teams as well. Like that's been a huge advantage for them. Of course, they take the sack early. It makes the Bob's field goal even longer. Asking your kicker to make, I don't know what that was, like a 57, 58 yarder in the snow or even anywhere, regardless, in the wind, whatever. It's a tough task. And then Corliss Waitman, his first punt of the day goes 15 yards. So it's just like, it was one of those days where like none of the three kind of phases of the game, not only did they not play like complimentary football, they just didn't play well at all. A 15-yard punt in that situation sets them up for a short field. It's a predictable outcome. So, yeah, I mean, I know that this one is really frustrating, just like reading some of the stuff on social media. It definitely seems like people are taking this loss hard. I know nobody likes losing, especially to like a divisional opponent, but I think the Steelers are going to be okay. That's just my opinion. I'm not super stressed out about the loss last night. I thought the Steelers would end up winning this game just because of some of the stuff I saw on film with the Browns. And they had every opportunity to, don't get me wrong. But this loss doesn't necessarily change the way that I view this team one way or another. I still think that they've got some work to do in terms of like being considered a true contender and what this looks like once they get to the playoffs. But I do think they're going to make the playoffs. Like some people tweeted me asking if they're going to make the playoffs. I think they'll make the playoffs. Now, whether they get a home playoff game or not, I don't know. That does matter. They need to make sure that they win the division. They're going to have plenty of chances to. Got Cincinnati coming up, got Cleveland coming up again. He still gets a chance to play Baltimore, kind of increase the lead in the AFC North, which is really important. But I'm not overly down about this loss in general. You just look at the schedule. This was going to be a tough one to get on the road after the Ravens game on short rest. Um, yeah, the weather elements, whatever. But it's a game they probably should have won, but it's not the end of the world in my eyes. I understand that people may feel differently. I just don't. So it'll be very interesting to see what the tape says when we watch it back, and I'll probably have plenty of further thoughts on that stuff as we get into it. As always, I really appreciate your all's continued support to the channel. We had a huge week this week. And for that, I'm really grateful. I really enjoyed my time just creating content this week, talking ball with you guys. It's definitely stressful when you got, a couple games in just a matter of days, but it's always a good time. And I really appreciate you guys tapping in with me on a frequent basis. So as always, I wish I could say Victory Friday, but enjoy the rest of your weekend. And I will have some more content up for you guys very soon.